My name is Elijah Reyes, and I'm 32 years old, sitting here in my garage workshop in Detroit, where the smell of motor oil mixes with the sharp scent of welding sparks and the sweet buzz of electric batteries charging. The concrete floor beneath my boots is stained with years of grease and determination, each mark telling a story of late nights and early mornings spent building something from nothing. I run my hand along the frame of a custom electric bike, feeling the smooth aluminum tubing that once was scrap metal from the Ford plant down on Jefferson Avenue. "Yo, Elijah, this chain tensioner is giving me problems," Cam calls out from the corner where he's bent over a bright blue bike frame. The kid is 17 with eager eyes and calloused hands that remind me of my own at that age, back when I thought fixing things could somehow fix everything. I walk over and show him how to adjust the derailleur, my voice patient, because I remember what it felt like when no one had patience for me. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. Marlon laughs from behind the counter where he's organizing parts, his deep voice cutting through the hum of machinery. "Man, you baby that boy more than my mama babied me. He's my best friend and business partner. The one who stood by me when we were both stupid kids in juvie. And the one who still stands by me now when we're stupid adults trying to build an empire out of salvaged dreams." Terrell rolls in from a delivery run, his delivery bike loaded with empty carriers. Mrs. Johnson on Corktown says her bike is running smoother than her husband's Cadillac, he says with a grin. Terrell used to run with the wrong crowd, but now he runs packages for us, and there's something beautiful about that kind of redemption. The afternoon light filters through the garage door, casting long shadows across the workshop floor. This place isn't much to look at from the outside, just another rundown building in a neighborhood that's seen better decades, but inside, it's alive with possibility. Custom electric bikes hang from the ceiling like sleeping birds, their batteries charged and ready to carry people to work, to school, to wherever they need to go without depending on anyone else. I'm tightening a bolt on a motor housing when my phone buzzes against my hip. The name on the screen makes my stomach drop like I've missed a step in the dark. Nina, my little sister, never calls during work hours unless something's wrong. "Elijah?" Her voice is tight, careful. "I need to tell you something. Dad's back in town." The wrench slips from my fingers and clatters to the floor. Marlon looks up from his inventory, reading my face like he's reading bad news. Cam keeps working, oblivious to the earthquake that just shifted the ground beneath my feet. "He's asking about you," Nina continues. "Says he needs to talk to you, says it's important." I close my eyes and see a flash of memory, a man with my same dark eyes and stubborn jaw, pointing his finger at me like a weapon. "You're my biggest mistake, boy. Should have known better." "Elijah, you there?" "Yeah," I whisper. "I'm here. I'm sitting in Murphy's Diner on Michigan Avenue, where the vinyl booths are cracked, and the coffee tastes like it's been sitting since the Clinton administration, but it's the kind of place where broken men go to have broken conversations. The fluorescent lights buzz overhead like dying insects, casting everything in that sickly yellow glow that makes even healthy people look like they're fighting the flu. I check my phone for the third time in 5 minutes, part of me hoping he won't show up, part of me knowing he will, because desperate people are nothing if not punctual. The door chimes, and I look up to see a man who used to fill doorways now, shuffling through one like he's asking permission. Victor Reyes, my father, looks like someone took the man I remembered and left him out in the rain for a decade. His hair is more gray than black now, his shoulders curved inward like he's protecting something fragile in his chest, and his clothes hang loose on a frame that used to intimidate me just by existing in the same room. He slides into the booth across from me, and I notice his hands shake slightly as he reaches for the coffee cup the waitress brings without being asked. "You look good, son," he says, and the word son sits between us like a stone thrown through a window. "You look like hell," I say, because I've learned that honesty is the only currency worth trading in, and lies are too expensive for both of us to afford. He laughs, but it's hollow, like sound echoing in an empty house. "Yeah, Well, life's been kicking my ass lately. He takes a sip of coffee and makes a face like it's medicine. Lost my apartment last month. Been staying with your cousin Maria, but that's not going to last much longer. I wait for him to continue, but he's studying his coffee like it might tell him the right words to say. The silence stretches between us, like a bridge neither of us wants to cross first. I heard about your business, he finally says, looking up at me with eyes that used to be hard as steel but now look more like wet concrete. People are talking about it around the neighborhood. Electric bikes, right? Smart kid, always were good with your hands. What do you want, Victor? I ask, using his first name like a barrier between us. He flinches but pushes forward. I need work, Elijah. I need a job or help or something. I can't keep living like this. His voice cracks on the word living, and I see something in his face that I've never seen before. Fear. And you thought you'd come to me? I ask, leaning back in the booth. After 10 years of nothing? You're my son, he says, like that explains everything, like DNA is a contract we both signed. I finish my coffee, leave a $5 bill on the table, and stand up. I'll think about it, I say, but we both know I'm really saying goodbye. Outside, the Detroit air tastes like metal and possibility, and I breathe it in deep, trying to wash the taste of that conversation out of my mouth. I'm standing in Ms. Lena's kitchen where the walls are painted sunflower yellow, and the air smells like cinnamon and wisdom, the kind of place where broken boys used to come to remember they were still human. She's 73 now, with silver hair braided down her back and hands that have graded 10,000 papers, but her eyes are still sharp as the day she pulled me out of the hallway when I was 16 and angry at the world for existing. Sit down, baby, she says, pouring sweet tea into a glass that's older than I am. You look like you've been wrestling with ghosts. I tell her about the diner, about Victor's hollow eyes and shaking hands, about the way he said son like it was a key he thought might still fit a lock I changed years ago. Ms. Lena listens without interrupting, nodding at the right moments, making those small sounds that mean she's hearing more than just my words. You know, she says when I finish, closure doesn't always come from others. Sometimes it comes from knowing you did right by yourself, by the people who chose to love you when they didn't have to. Quote, I think about Marlon and Cam and Terrell, about Nina who calls me every Sunday just to check in, about the family I built from spare parts and stubbornness. He never apologized, I say, and the words taste bitter. 10 years of nothing, and he still can't say he was wrong. Some people carry their pride like a shield, Ms. Lena says, but shields get heavy when you hold them too long. Eventually you have to put them down, or they'll break your arms. When I get back to the shop, Cam is hunched over a bike frame, his face scrunched in concentration as he tries to thread a cable through the handlebar housing. The cable keeps slipping, and I can see frustration building in his shoulders the way it used to build in mine, when nothing would work right and the world felt designed to make me fail. Here, I say, moving beside him, hold the housing steady with your left hand, guide the cable with your right, don't force it, let it find its own path. He follows my instructions, and the cable slides through smooth as silk. His face lights up like Christmas morning. Thanks, Elijah. I thought I was going to be stuck on this forever. Nothing's forever, I say, ruffling his hair the way Ms. Lena used to ruffle mine. Most things that feel impossible just need a different approach. That night I'm lying in bed staring at the ceiling when a memory hits me like a punch to the gut. I'm 8 years old, standing in our kitchen with a broken plate at my feet, and Victor is towering over me like a storm cloud. You're nothing but trouble, he says, his voice sharp as glass. You're my biggest mistake, boy. Should have known better than to expect anything different. I close my eyes and try to push the memory away, but it clings to me like smoke. Maybe Ms. Lena is right. Maybe closure has to come from inside, from the choice to stop letting someone else's poison run through your veins. But maybe, just maybe, there's another way to handle this, a way that doesn't involve walking away or letting him back in unchanged. I'm standing in the middle of my shop watching Victor walk through the door like he's entering a courtroom where the verdict has already been decided. Marlon stops organizing parts, and Terrell pauses mid-conversation with Cam, all of them sensing the electricity in the air like animals before a storm. The workshop falls quiet except for the hum of charging batteries and the distant sound of traffic on Michigan Avenue. Victor looks around at the bikes hanging from the ceiling, the organized chaos of tools and parts, the hand-painted sign that reads Reyes Custom Electric in bold letters. His eyes linger on my name, and I wonder if he's thinking about the boy he used to call his biggest mistake, or the man who built something beautiful from nothing. "This is impressive," he says, and I hear something in his voice I've never heard before. Respect, maybe, or surprise that I could create something worth respecting. "Marlon, Terrell, Cam," I say, gesturing to each of them. "This is Victor, my father." The words feel strange in my mouth, like speaking a language I used to know but haven't practiced in years. Marlon nods but doesn't extend his hand. Terrell offers a polite smile. Cam just watches with curious eyes, probably wondering why the air feels so thick suddenly. "I've been thinking about what you said," I tell Victor, my voice steady as a machine press, "about needing work, about needing help." I walk over to the workbench and pick up a wrench, turning it over in my hands. "I'm going to make you an offer." Telling and preparing this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. He straightens up, hope flickering in his eyes like a candle in wind. "You can work here," I continue, "in the back warehouse, inventory, cleaning parts, basic repairs. You'll work under Marlon and Terrell. No special treatment, no handouts. You earn your place like everyone else." The hope in his eyes dims, replaced by something harder. "You want me to work for them?" His voice carries the old edge, the pride that used to cut me down to size. "I want you to work," I say, stepping closer. "Period. You said I was your biggest mistake. Prove me wrong. Show me you can do something other than tear people down." Victor looks around the shop again, at the men who built this place with their hands and hearts, at the success he had no part in creating. His jaw works like he's chewing on words too bitter to swallow. "Take it or leave it," I say, crossing my arms, "but this is the only offer you're getting from me." He stares at me for a long moment, and I see the boy I used to be reflected in his eyes, the one who used to flinch when he raised his voice. "I'll take it," he says quietly. I'm watching Victor struggle with a simple inventory count, while Terrell explains the system for the third time, and I can see the frustration building in my father's shoulders, like steam in a kettle about to whistle. 3 days into this experiment, and already the cracks are showing, not just in Victor's patience but in the careful balance I've built in this place where everyone knows their worth. "Man, it's not that complicated," Terrell says, his voice still patient but wearing thin around the edges. "Red tags are batteries, blue tags are motors, green tags are frames. You just count and write down the numbers." Victor mutters something under his breath that sounds like, "I know how to count," but his voice carries that old bitter edge that used to make me want to disappear into the walls. Marlon catches my eye from across the shop and shakes his head slowly, like he's watching a car accident happen in slow motion. Later, Nina stops by with sandwiches from the deli down the street, her presence brightening the workshop like someone opened the blinds. She watches Victor sorting parts in the corner, her face unreadable as stone. "How's it going?" she asks me quietly. "He's trying," I say, but we both know trying isn't the same as succeeding. "Be careful, Elijah," she says, touching my arm. "Don't let him drag you back into old patterns. Don't let him make you feel small again." That evening, after everyone else has gone home, I'm finishing up some paperwork when I hear sounds from the back warehouse. I walk over quietly and peer around the corner to see Victor hunched over an old bike part, a chain tensioner that's been giving Cam trouble for days. His hands move carefully, precisely, the way they used to when he worked the assembly line at Ford before the world changed and left him behind. He doesn't see me watching as he adjusts the mechanism, tests it, adjusts it again. There's something different about him in this moment. Focused, purposeful, like the man he might have been if life hadn't broken him down piece by piece. When he finally gets the tensioner working smoothly, He sets it aside with a small nod of satisfaction. I step back into the shadows and leave him alone with his small victory. Maybe Nina is right to worry. Maybe Marlon is right to be suspicious. But for the first time since Victor walked back into my life, I see a glimmer of something that isn't anger or desperation. I see possibility, fragile as glass but real as the tools in my hands. Tomorrow we'll see if that possibility can survive another day of grease and grit and the hard work of becoming better than who you used to be. I'm standing outside the community center on Cass Avenue, feeling like someone just punched me in the stomach with brass knuckles, watching Councilwoman Patricia Williams walk away after telling me what my father said during yesterday's grant interview. The morning sun beats down on the cracked sidewalk, but I feel cold as winter metal, the kind of cold that seeps into your bones and stays there. He told them he helped start the business? Marlon asks, his voice tight with disbelief. Man said he was a founding partner? I nod, unable to trust my voice right now. 2 weeks of watching Victor slowly integrate into the shop, 2 weeks of seeing him fix parts and help Cam with difficult repairs, 2 weeks of thinking maybe people really can change, and then this. The same old Victor, taking credit for work he never did, spinning stories to make himself look bigger than he is. Back at the shop, Victor is showing Cam how to adjust a brake cable, his voice patient and instructive. See, you want to feel for the tension here, he says, guiding Cam's hands. Too tight and it'll snap. Too loose and it won't work when you need it. Cam nods eagerly, absorbing the lesson like a sponge. You're really good at this, Mr. Reyes. Elijah's lucky to have your help starting this place. The words hit me like a slap, and I see Victor's face flush red as he realizes I'm standing there, that I heard everything. Cam looks between us, sensing the sudden tension, but not understanding its source. Cam, I say, my voice carefully controlled, why don't you take lunch break early today? The boy nods and hurries out, leaving Victor and me alone in the workshop with the ghosts of old lies hanging between us like smoke. Elijah, I can explain. Victor starts, but I hold up my hand. You told the grant committee you helped start this business, I say, stepping closer. You told them you were a founding partner. You took credit for 8 years of work you had nothing to do with. He looks down at his hands, those same hands that just minutes ago were patiently teaching my apprentice. I just wanted them to respect me. I wanted to matter. By lying about my work, the anger I've been holding back for 2 weeks finally breaks free. By stealing credit for something you called worthless when I started it. I'm sorry, he says, and the words sound foreign in his mouth, like he's speaking a language he barely knows. I'm sorry, son. I messed up. I stare at him, this broken man who used to seem so large, and realize this might be the first time in my life I've ever heard him apologize for anything. I'm riding through the sweltering streets of Detroit on a July afternoon that feels like breathing through wet concrete, the kind of heat that makes the asphalt shimmer like water and turns every breath into work. The thermometer outside the shop hit 98 degrees before noon, and we're 3 bikes behind on our delivery schedule because the heat keeps overloading our charging systems and tempers are running shorter than our patience. My custom electric bike hums beneath me as I navigate toward the Rivertown address, sweat stinging my eyes and my head pounding like someone's using my skull for drum practice. The customer ordered this bike 2 weeks ago, a sleek silver model with a custom motor I built specifically for her daily commute to the hospital where she works as a nurse, and I promised her it would be ready today, because promises are the only currency that matters in this business. The world starts spinning sideways as I pull up to the delivery address, my vision blurring at the edges like someone's turning down the brightness on everything. I try to dismount the bike, but my legs give out, and suddenly, I'm on my knees on the hot sidewalk, with my head buzzing like a broken radio, and my chest feeling like it's wrapped in chains. Mrs. Henderson, the nurse, finds me there 20 minutes later when she comes out to check for her delivery. She helps me into her air-conditioned living room, makes me drink 2 glasses of water, and calls the shop to let them know what happened before driving me back in her own car with my bike loaded in the back. When we arrive, Victor is loading delivery bikes into Terrell's van, moving with purpose I haven't seen from him since he started working here. I got this, he tells Terrell. You stay with Elijah. I know the routes. Marlon looks skeptical, but Victor is already climbing into the driver's seat. I used to deliver parts for Ford all over this city, he says through the open window. I can handle a few bike drops. He's gone before anyone can argue, leaving us standing in the parking lot, watching dust settle in his wake. 3 hours later, Victor returns with empty carriers and a stack of signed delivery receipts. No fanfare, no request for praise, just quiet efficiency. He parks the van, hands the paperwork to Marlon, and goes back to organizing inventory like nothing unusual happened. He didn't have to do that, Terrell says, watching Victor work. No, I say, still feeling shaky from the heat exhaustion. He didn't. For the first time since Victor walked back into my life, I find myself saying 2 words I never thought I'd say to him again: thank you. He looks up from the parts he's sorting, nods once, and goes back to work. I'm sitting in the shop after closing time with the overhead lights dimmed and the air finally cooling down from the day's heat, watching Victor clean grease from his hands with the same methodical care he once used to polish his Ford work boots every Sunday morning. The silence between us feels different tonight, not heavy with anger but full of things that need saying, like a balloon stretched tight and ready to either pop or finally deflate. I was scared, he says suddenly, not looking up from his hands. When Ford laid us off, when everything fell apart, I was scared, and I took it out on you because you were there, and you reminded me of myself when I still had dreams. His voice cracks on the word dreams, and I see something in his face I've never seen before, not just regret, but shame that cuts deeper than any apology could reach. I told myself you were tough enough to handle it, that boys needed to be hard to survive, but the truth is I was just breaking you because I was broken and didn't know how else to feel strong. I leaned back against the workbench, feeling the solid weight of it behind me like an anchor. You called me your biggest mistake, I say quietly. Do you remember that? He nods, his hands stilling on the rag. I remember, and I was wrong. You were never my mistake, Elijah. I was yours. The words hang in the air between us like smoke from a welding torch, visible and sharp and impossible to take back. I think about the boy I used to be, the one who believed his father's words were gospel truth, and I feel something inside me shift and settle, like pieces of a machine finally finding their proper alignment. I built this place to prove you wrong, I tell him. Every bike, every customer, every success, I was trying to show you I wasn't worthless. Quote, and I built this life, I continue, gesturing around the shop, to prove I didn't need your approval to matter. Victor looks up at me then, his eyes wet with tears he's probably been holding back for years. You never needed my approval, son. You were always better than I gave you credit for, better than I deserved. Later that night, Nina calls while I'm driving home through empty streets. How are you holding up? She asks, her voice soft with concern. I think, I say, watching the streetlights blur past my window, I'm finally learning the difference between forgiving someone and forgetting what they did. And what's the difference? She asks. Forgiveness sets you free, I say. Forgetting just sets you up to get hurt again. I'm standing at the podium in the Eastern Market Community Center, where the smell of fresh coffee mingles with the excitement of 200 people who believe in the power of small businesses to rebuild neighborhoods one dream at a time. The microphone feels steady in my hands, not like the shaking boy who used to stutter when called on in class, but like a man who has learned that his story belongs to him and no one else. 8 years ago, I began, my voice carrying across the room filled with shop owners and dreamers and city officials with clipboards. I started Reyes Custom Electric in a garage that leaked when it rained and had more rust than floor space. I had $1,200, a box of salvaged parts, and a belief that Detroit deserved better than being written off. I see familiar faces in the crowd. M's. Lena in the third row with her proud teacher smile, Marlon and Cam near the back giving me thumbs up, Nina recording everything on her phone because she knows this moment matters. And there, standing against the wall like he's ready to disappear if anyone looks too closely, is Victor, his face unreadable but his attention focused entirely on me. This business exists because of people who chose to believe in something before it was profitable to believe in it, I continue. Marlon Washington, my partner, who convinced me that electric bikes could be more than just transportation. They could be freedom. Terrell Johnson, who delivers hope along with every bike. Cam Rodriguez, who reminds me every day that teaching someone to build something is worth more than building it yourself. The applause ripples through the room like water, and I pause to let it settle before continuing. Nina Reyes, my sister, who kept me grounded when success tried to make me forget where I came from. Ms. Lena Patterson, who taught me that education doesn't end when you leave school. It ends when you stop learning. These people didn't just help me build a business. They helped me build a family. I don't mention Victor's name, don't reference his presence, but I see him shift against the wall and know he understands that family is something you create, not something you're born into. Today, we're not just celebrating a grant award, I say, holding up the check that will fund our community outreach program. We're celebrating the idea that broken things can be fixed, that discarded things can be valuable, and that everyone deserves a second chance to prove what they're worth. The standing ovation feels like thunder, and as I step away from the podium, I catch Victor's eye across the room. He nods once, a small gesture that says more than any words could, and for the first time in 20 years, I see something in his face that looks like pride. Not in himself, but in me. I'm sitting on the concrete steps outside the shop as the sun sets over Detroit, painting the sky the color of motor oil and possibility, watching Victor methodically sweep the parking lot like it's the most important job in the world. 3 months have passed since he walked back into my life, and the man pushing that broom isn't the same one who showed up broken and desperate, just like I'm not the same boy who used to flinch at the sound of his voice. He finishes sweeping and sits down beside me, close enough to talk but far enough away to give me space if I need it. We watch the traffic move past on Michigan Avenue, working people heading home to families who are waiting for them, and the silence between us feels comfortable for the first time in my memory. "I can't undo it," he says finally, his voice quiet as evening air. "The things I said, the way I made you feel small, the years I wasted being angry instead of being your father. I know saying sorry doesn't fix that." I nod, watching a mother walk past with 2 kids on matching blue bikes, their laughter echoing off the buildings like music. "No," I say, "it doesn't fix it. But it's a start." "I'm proud of you," he says, and the words sound strange coming from him, like he's learning a new language. "Not just the business, not just tonight. I'm proud of the man you became without me, maybe because you had to become him without me." Quote, "Are you staying?" I ask, not looking at him, but feeling the weight of the question settle between us like a stone dropped in still water. "If you'll have me," he says, "not as your father trying to make up for lost time, but as a man trying to earn his place in the life you built." Cam comes out of the shop carrying his backpack, ready to head home to homework and dinner with his grandmother. "See you tomorrow, Mr. Elijah," he calls, then pauses and waves at Victor. "See you too, Mr. Reyes." After Cam disappears around the corner, Victor asks, "What did you tell him about me?" "Nothing," I say. "He'll figure out who you are by watching what you do, same as everyone else." Victor nods, understanding that respect isn't inherited or demanded. It's earned through small actions repeated over time, like sweeping parking lots and fixing broken parts and showing up every day without fanfare. Later, as we're locking up the shop, Marlon helps me lift the 1,000th custom bike we've built onto its display hook. It's a deep green frame with silver accents, built for a teacher who wants to bike to work instead of driving. 1,000 bikes, Marlon says, grinning. Not bad for a couple of juvie kids with big dreams. I smile, thinking about the boy who started this journey believing he was his father's biggest mistake, and the man who learned that the only mistake would be letting someone else's pain become his truth. The machines hum quietly around us, ready for tomorrow's work, and the silence sounds like home. Up next, we have 2 more incredible stories that are waiting for you. Just click the image you want to watch, and it will take you there. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe. It would mean a lot.